future. It's up to all of us to make it work. We speak of a future with expanding opportunities. We speak of a future we must shape because we care and because we cannot miss the opportunity to shape our future. The plan we hand over today is about the actions that all of us must take to secure the future charted in our Constitution. The plan is about our dreams and aspirations and detailed, actionable steps to achieve them. Over the past 2 years, Mr. Speaker, the Commission has listened to thousands of South Africans from all corners of the country, from all walks of life. We received comments from thousands of individuals and organizations and engaged with government departments, provinces, municipalities, state-owned enterprises, and agencies. The consultation process revealed 3 broad messages from citizens. In the first instance, South Africans from all walks of life expressed a deep patriotic commitment to South Africa, a love for our country, a desire to see it succeed. There's an incredible amount of goodwill out there that needs to be tapped and harnessed. Secondly, South Africans expressed concerns, honestly and frankly but constructively, that there are problems in our country that need strong, focused leadership from all. They spoke of joblessness, of children who can't read or count, of services that functioned on rare occasions, and of public officials who appeared cold and uncaring. Thirdly, there was an overwhelming sense from all, including organizations representing millions of our people, to be part of the process of making South Africa a better place and to take action to put collective interest ahead of narrow sectoral concerns. These are the real strengths of our South Africanness. We are humbled by the support and effort from South Africans who want to be part of the process of change by taking ownership of the plan and displaying a willingness to play their part in implementing the plan. Mr. President, it would be a profound wasted opportunity if we do not harvest the goodwill and determination and afford our people that opportunity to rise to greatness. The Commission made a special effort to listen to young people. Young women and men talked of the difficulties of finding work, of the frustration of not getting their foot in the door, of their pain at not receiving a regular income, and of basic things in life that being jobless excluded them from, such as starting a family. They also spoke to us about the ravages of crime on their lives and their communities. They expressed concern that good policies are poorly implemented and therefore fail. Honourable members, these are the voices of our youth expressing their frustrations that stem both from the intergenerational effects of apartheid and from shortcomings in our collective performance since 1994. The plan we present today focuses on how we can translate our political emancipation into social and economic benefits for all South Africans, but particularly for young people. That we change the life chances of young people is critical for the future of our country, and that we ensure that every young South African has a sense of hope and purpose in society is part of the mission that we must undertake. The methodology used in the plan was to set overarching objectives, to set key targets for various sectors, and then to make recommendations on how these targets can be achieved. This is a broad strategic plan, not a detailed cost plan. The Commission has been careful to distinguish between a broad strategy, specific policies of government, and the day-to-day actions of business, of government, and of trade unions. Honourable Presiding Officers, the Commission has drawn from our Constitution the perspective that the future we must construct is one where no person lives in poverty and where together we deal decisively to root out the deep inequality that we've inherited. We are convinced that our country can and must eliminate poverty. The Commission has used a simple poverty measure of 432 Rand per person per month in today's prices. Modest as this amount is, modest, 432 Rand per person per month is modest. There are still about 39% of South Africans who live below this line. By 2030, no one should live in poverty. Rotlefano, Haridireng, Katata, Hole Musa Hore Tlala Imokutseng. Seno re tshwanetse ke go se dira ka maikemisetso ka mehla. The other measure, which is much more difficult, is inequality. Economists use a measure called the Gini coefficient to measure income inequality. The higher the measure, the more unequal the income distribution is. South Africa has a very high Gini coefficient of 0.69, and the plan seeks to reduce that to 0.60 by 2030. Honourable members, development is a complex process. Our approach to tackling poverty and inequality is premised on faster of economic growth, higher public and private investment, improving education and knowledge and innovation, and better public services, all leading to higher employment, rising incomes, and falling inequality. The National Development Plan affords us an opportunity to rethink our strategy. A holistic approach to income inequality, the concept of merely a focus. A decent standard of living includes health inequality. The concept of a decent standard of living is much broader than merely a focus on income. A decent standard of living includes healthy nutrition, access to household services such as water and electricity, available public transport, quality education and skills, safe communities, decent health care, full employment, accessible recreation and leisure, and the entitlement to a clean environment. I see the Bishop in the House, the entitlement to a clean environment, and measurable action by all social actors in partnership across society to raise living standards. Development planning is about building linkages between these various strands of everyday life. For example, better quality schooling will make it social actors in partnership across society to raise living standards. Development planning is about building linkages between these various, but it also enables workers to improve their productivity, to learn faster on the job, and to raise their incomes and living life. For example, but it also enables workers to improve their productivity, to learn faster on the job, and to raise their incomes and living standards. Poor quality education, on the other hand, locks people out of the labor market, and when people do find work, traps them in low. But it also enables workers to improve their productivity, to learn faster on the job, and to raise their incomes and living standards. But it also enables workers to improve their productivity, to learn faster on the job, and to raise their incomes and living standards. Poor quality education, on the other hand, locks people out, people search for work, and when people do find work, traps them in low-paying, low-productivity work. There are also other dimensions of this story. Good quality public transport helps people search for work over a wider area. It helps them get to work faster and more cheaply, but it also assists in permitting people to live full events such as deaths or illness or injury. Its key objective is to level the impacts of shocks between those who, for example, like ourselves, earn sufficient to insure against and workers from unforeseen events such as deaths or illness or injury. Its key objective is to level the impacts of shocks between those who, for example, like ourselves, earn sufficient to insure against unforeseen events and those who are too poor to do so. Public investment complements private fishing be broken down. Our towns and cities must house us differently, must connect us differently, must afford us space to play that the harmful effects of spatial separation to remain in the countryside where we so decide because we have access to spatial separation, one of the pillars of apartheid that we've not yet succeeded in demolishing, be broken down. Our towns and cities must house us differently. The Commission takes a look, must house us differently, must connect us differently, must afford us space to play and pray, remain in the countryside. In addition to the physical aspects of development, the plans that link and interact with each other. In addition to the physical aspects of development, citizens to be active in their communities and in public. The plan also recognizes the social aspects of development, such as the need for social cohesion to underpin faster progress, the need for greater accountability of leaders in public and private sectors. Honourable members, a point worth public and private sectors for citizens to be active in their communities and in public life, and for a capable and developmental state that is effective, caring, and innovative, strand by strand into one successful nation. Honourable members, for what needs to be done by all, the numbers we use are targets, and they are target institution we have to get together. When we of how wide off the mark we actually are together. When we raise the issue of targets, we are not making promises. The numbers we use are targets, and they are targets because we must aim. Now, we are aware that we'll not hit all of these targets, but all of us need a consciousness of how wide off the mark we actually are. It's also important to introduce into this discussion the reality that no nation has attained all of which it desires. There needs to be public discussion that is sufficiently inclusive and mature to construct the trade-offs between what we can do immediately and what might have to be deferred. This process only works if there's both honesty and accountability. The Commission has also identified other enabling milestones to achieve the broad objectives of the plan. For example, we would have to create an additional 11 million jobs over the next 2 decades. Per capita income should rise from about 50,000 per person, where we are at present, to about 120,000, but distributed more evenly across the population. The economy will have to expand to almost 3 times the present level. To proper nutrition should rise from 6% to at least 10% during this period. Now, it's worth digressing to remind all South Africans, but between that desirable state, and we are speaking of a South Africa where it will be a big change from the present, and all children and pregnant moms should have access to nutritional support. Between that and the present, where even the school nutrition program is difficult to implement, there's a vast chasm. The object of the plan is to bridge such a chasm. Why does food not get delivered to children? Is the capacity of officials charged with the responsibility? Might it be that food is too expensive and impossible to secure? Might it be that tenders get in the way of the objective to feeding children? Or might it be that decision makers, including all of us with our constituency officers and so on, are too wealthy to care? Whatever the issue, a plan must boldly address the breakdown and invite all South Africans to become part of the solution. Honourable Speaker, these targets are more than just arbitrary or distant points in a roadmap. They are carefully calibrated milestones along a path to prosperity and equity for all. Despite massive progress since 1994, on the present trajectory, we will not achieve our target of eliminating poverty and reducing inequality by 2030. Without faster progress, there's a real chance that South Africa could slide backwards while dealing with the immense challenges overwhelming our capacity to succeed. For these reasons, we must accelerate the pace of change, work harder and better to move towards a vision we all aspire to. It is possible. We are capable as a nation of achieving these bold and ambitious but realistic objectives. When we unite and work together, we can achieve miracles. Our history is, in fact, a testament to this. Our plan to eliminate poverty and inequality rests on 6 pillars. The first is to unite all South Africans around a common program to fight poverty and inequality and to foster a spirit of unity. But this will remain a hollow call unless we can improve the lives of young black people. To promote social cohesion, the Commission proposes that the preamble of the Constitution be displayed in all workplaces and schools, and that all South Africans are encouraged to learn at least one indigenous African language. We also propose ways to improve the efficacy of redress measures such as black economic empowerment and employment equity. The second pillar is active citizenry. Working individually and collectively with others in the community, citizens have a critical role to play in their own development and in the development of our country. The idea that people sit back and wait for government to deliver is neither feasible nor consistent with people-centered development. Honourable Speaker, citizens and communities have responsibility to hold their leaders accountable for their actions. It is up to every single one of us to hold our leaders responsible for the implementation of the plan. The third pillar is a growing and inclusive economy. Without faster and more inclusive economic growth, it will not be possible to deliver on the objectives that we've set for ourselves. We need this to help pay for the development of the capabilities such as education and infrastructure to improve the life chances of our people. The main change we seek is an economy that is more labor absorbing. We need to create more jobs and make progress in broadening ownership of the economy. Our economy is unfortunately caught in a low growth trap. To reverse this, we require higher investment, better skills, rising savings, and greater levels of competitiveness. If we do not suffer a poverty of ideas, our weakness is implementation. The Commission identified critical factors that contribute to this flaw and makes several proposals to deal with them. Among them is improving coordination within government and with other social partners to boost investment and employment. The plan also identifies a deficit in trust between business, labor, and government that needs to be reversed if we are to build this economy. The main target in respect of the economy is to raise employment by 11 million to 24 million by 2030. This will require an extraordinary effort, and the plan provides a detailed account of how this can be achieved. The fourth pillar of the plan addresses the urgent need to build capabilities. Capabilities apply to both people and the state. For some, capabilities might be adequate nutrition or a bus to get to a place of work. For others, it might be a college certificate to boost the chances of getting a job. Across the country, capabilities cover what broadband speed we would require, the amount of energy we would need to power a growing economy, port capacity to support a diversified economy, or the water supply that meets the needs of households, industry, and agriculture. The plan sets targets for energy consumption, the carbon intensity of the energy supply, water supply, rail and port capacity, and internet connectivity. The fifth pillar is a capable and developmental state. We define a developmental state as one that is capable of intervening to correct historical inequalities and to create opportunities for more people. A capable state needs to be professional, competent, and responsive to the needs of all citizens. We seek a professional civil service which can weather changes in political administrations. The President has mandated the NPC to focus on 2030. Between the present and that date, there will be at least 4 national and provincial elections and at least 3 municipal elections. The plan is for all South Africans and cannot therefore focus narrowly or even broadly on electoral cycles. The Commission makes proposals covering the political administrative interface, personnel training and development, policy processes and coordination within and between spheres of government. Building a capable and developmental state means building the capacity of the state to effectively implement its key priorities and programs. The tendency to outsource everything, including our brains, including at times every bit of responsibility, including responsibility itself, that has to end, honourable members. The sixth pillar is the responsibilities of leadership throughout society to work together to solve our problems. We've said leadership in society is not confined to these people sitting over here. It's certainly not confined to this one desk over here, Mr. President. Leadership involves all of us and many other millions of South Africans who take decisions in everyday lives, and that's what has to change. South Africa's progress in navigating a transition from apartheid to democracy was built on the ability of leaders to put aside narrow sectarian interests in favor of national interests, leaders who were able to put aside short-term political agendas for long-term benefits. To achieve the South Africa we all desire, we require leaders to put the country first and to put the future ahead of the present. Honourable Speaker, the approach of the Commission has been to scan the external environment with a view to understanding what is likely to have an impact on our future. Some of this includes the resurgence of development on the African continent, with the region enjoying its longest period of economic growth in half a century. Africa's voice in global forums is also becoming much more resonant. Globalization will continue apace with both risks and opportunities for all countries. Countries that position themselves to take advantage of the opportunities while protecting their economies and the poor from risks will do better over the next 2 decades. Science and technology has and will continue to shape development in ways that will open up huge opportunities for humanity in general, including poor countries. Innovation is essential for middle-income countries such as ours to progress to high-income status. Climate change is and will continue to affect the world, with the worst effects likely to occur in Africa. We confront greater climate variability and more shocks, such as floods and droughts. The Commission also looked at demographic trends and their likely impact. The trends we identified offered opportunities as well as risks. On the positive side, our population growth is slowing and expected to expand to less than 1% a year to reach about 58.5 million people by 2030. And life expectancy is rising again, quite rapidly actually. Also in our favor is 500,000 people by 2030. And life expectancy is rising again, quite rapidly actually. Also in our favor is a fat population, which could prove to be a major boon, but could also be a danger if we don't address the young population, which could prove to be a major boon, but could also be a danger if we don't address the problem of youth unemployment and the education upstream from that. Honourable Speaker, these trends will have an impact on our development. In the same way, the world today is different from the one into which our democracy was born 18 years ago. The world is changing at breathtaking speed. Countries are steaming ahead, taking extraordinary measures to boost their economic performance, develop their industries, and invest in research and development. But the global environment is also fraught with risks. We observe that much of the world is caught presently in a wave of low economic growth. Much of this will linger for some time. This will impact on our plans for higher growth. We need to understand these trends in order to minimize risk and to explore opportunities. A failure to act, and when I say act, I mean every South African has something in this. A failure to act will not just see us being left behind, it will also confine future generations to poverty and hopelessness. It would be the equivalent of trying to catch Usain Bolt when he's got a 50 meters head start on you in a 100-meter sprint. The single most frequent comment or question from the public has been about implementation. Given weak capacity in the state and low levels of trust and cooperation between major social partners, how will this be implemented? The Commission stresses social partners. How will this plan be implemented? The Commission stresses that implementation rests with society as a whole, led by government and the executive. But we do believe that during the course of our work, we've come a long way in forging the beginnings of a common approach. Discussion between the Commission and government departments were often robust and frank. There were areas where departments were able to convince us that we were wrong on certain issues. There were also several areas where we were able to persuade and convince departments of the correctness of the recommendations in the draft plan when departments initially did not support these. There are areas where our plan differs from existing plans or policy. It's very much in the nature of planning that going forward, there will need to be an alignment of plans today. Parliament and society at large have a critical role to play. Let me set out how we see the next steps. In the first instance, it's expected that the Cabinet can adopt key recommendations and set in motion that this is not just a plan for government. There are actions and responsibilities for business, for labour, for civil society and for individuals. The Commission outlines the factors critical for the success of this plan. This includes the need for careful sequencing, prioritisation and the mobilisation of all responsibility to hold one another accountable to get things done. As a Commission, we will play our part. The life of the Commission does not end with a handing over of the plan today. The President has appointed the Commission partners on implementation and work with relevant institutions to monitor and report on progress in meet with social partners to discuss their role in implementing the plan, and construct an accountable chain with the public and hundreds of meetings. This plan is made because of the time, dedication and selflessness of the commissioners who are seated in the President's Bay in the gallery. These are indeed outstanding. Many of them did not know each other before we first convened 8 years. For me, it has been a privilege to work with such passionate, hard-working, and smart South Africans. Of our small but effective secretariat. Shortly, and we wish him well, but we want him to go knowing that we treasure him well, but we want him to go knowing that we treasure his contribution to pulling all of these. The President didn't just offer a tough challenge and then walk away. The Commission would not have been able to produce work of this quality without the support. To thank them. Honourable members, ladies and gentlemen, our future is under construction, and we now have a plan for its construction. Building on our history and collective achievement that our people deserve, we have an opportunity to construct a future we all want. We mustn't squander that opportunity. The decisions we make today, 1994, our challenge is to build a future fit for our children, a future that our people deserve. We have an opportunity to re-energize our people, to strive for a future that is worth 5, 10, 15, and 20 years will determine where South Africa's future is successful or where we get another hopeful mission. We enjoin all South Africans to grasp this opportunity. The plan is here, but ineffective state, unable to satisfy people's dreams. Fellow South Africans, the changes we seek and the outcomes we all desire will not happen on their own. In fact, we can confidently say that without a change in pace and approach, our vision will remain elusive. The National Development Plan is an opportunity to remake the future, to re-energize our people, to strive for a future that is worthy of our proud history built in the vision of our Constitution. The plan is a call to action to unite as a country, to unleash the energies of our people and to build a better future. It is our future. We can and have to make it work. As a Commission, we enjoin all South Africans to grasp this opportunity. The plan is here. Let us join forces to make it a reality. I would now like to hand over the plan to the President, who receives it on behalf of this House and all South Africans. Thank you very much.
I wish to thank the Honourable Minister in the Presidency, National Planning Commission. I now wish to invite the Honourable Sisa Njikelana to the podium.
Somlomo ayobekekileyo kuphela kodwa nothandekayo. Malungu eParlamente abaphathiswa kunye nabo bonke abakhoyo. Nani konke baseAfrika naseMzantsi. Ndihlanganisa oosomashishini abasebenzi nabahlali. I greet you in support of our noble endeavours for a better South Africa for all. The grim and dire socio-economic situation globally, continentally, and locally demands extraordinary efforts, which amongst an array of strategies is essentially accelerated but realistic approach. From the onset, I want to assert that long-term planning is a time-tested development tool with proven legacy in countries such as China. The National Planning Commission, on behalf of the ANC-led government, has to be applauded for such a sterling work, the first of its kind in our country. Such is an illustration of how we are earnestly progressing to higher levels of development. As a preface, let me assert that the ANC legacy of involving the people in efforts for a better life for all is undoubted. Such is manifest in this noble initiative, given that the National Development Plan is a product of collective involvement, a shift from elitist and esoteric style of planning as witnessed elsewhere. Harnessing resources from various social sectors for the benefit of all is a noble effort whose value is hardly paralleled. The compilation of the National Development Plan definitely exploited a multitude of brains and expertise that is in its abundance in South Africa. The African National Congress has and will still be the prime driver of the national campaign against the triple evils: unemployment, poverty, and inequality unapologetically. The National Development Plan has been made one of the tools to address such with the passion such deserves. The movement has definitely maintained the legacy of mobilizing the ordinary people to ultimately become determinants of their own destiny, as articulated in the Freedom Charter. The introduction of the National Development Plan, including particularly the process of molding it, ought to serve as a reminder that the ANC has once again provided leadership and guided the South African society in articulation of the transformation agenda. And not only that, but also extending to explore higher levels of development. The National Planning Commission has to be commended for its responsiveness to inputs during consultation in the past 6 months. Such is indicative of the democratic character of the initiative in essence, and sets the tone of how the plan will be refined in future. As the Minister has said, the political goodwill, Minister Trevor. It is claimed that the revised plan is clearer and more integrated with jobs, education, and a capable developmental state regarded as the highest priorities. However, let me highlight that as long as education is viewed in the context of comprehensive human resource development, it will be a matter of time before things such as skills constraints become history. The National Development Plan presents one of the golden opportunities to compel enhanced coordination amongst not only departments, but the various spheres of government, thus steadfastly reversing the silo syndrome. There are a few cardinal issues worth mentioning in the plan, that is, the emphasis on economic transformation, given that the triple evils that face us make that most appropriate. Once again, public participation has been highlighted. As part of my admiration of such, let me stress that public participation is void of public participation that is void of empowering character to the public is sterile, mechanical, and ultimately counterproductive. Focus on regional integration, as the plan articulates, acknowledge that our ultimate solution lies in working with the wider regional community. Not only that, but embracing global trade means recognition of full integration with the global village as well. In concluding, Honourable Speaker, the greenfield character of this initiative needs to be appreciated. It is a giant leap. It is an ambitious project that not only needs but also calls all South Africans to be seized with ensuring its resounding success. I trust all parliamentarians, as well as the whole community of public representatives, MPLs and councillors, and other leadership in South Africa will rally behind this development tool, that is the plan. The National Development Plan has a potential to impact on policy and legislative refinement, which means the state will have better tools to drive the transformation agenda. At the risk of repeating, allow me to assert that any transformation agenda must be guided by progressive principles, policies, and laws. Furthermore, the balance between development planning at global level by the National Planning Commission compared to planning by departments and other spheres of government must be aptly maintained. I'm glad that the Minister has emphasized that, because Minister, as members of Parliament, there are sometimes skirmishes when we see those silo syndromes. Let us even idealize a situation whereby issues raised through integrated development plans find their way into national plans. The process that will be triggered by the National Planning Commission sets the tone for such future. The ongoing iterative character of managing the plan must be upheld given that 6 months consultation was rather short for such an enormous task. Of course, one also concedes that any consultation process must be essentially finite in character. Rolling the plan must once again be done in an empowering manner, such that the most ordinary of the ordinary has a basic understanding, no matter how minuscule. Investing in people themselves, if acceleration is to be real, thus enhancing social cohesion as one of the highly prized tools for effective development, for effective implementation of the plan. I'm referring here to social cohesion that will be anchored through active citizenship, which, amongst other effects, ought to reverse marginalization and even alienation that sometimes finds itself within our society. Of course, the risk of driving transformation without enhancement of social consciousness needs all the attention it deserves from every leader in our country. South Africa needs a capable and developmental state that acts with resolve to roll out the plan once fully adopted. The ANC has displayed that it's capable of providing such leadership through its cadres deployed in the current government. Focus on waging war against fraud, corruption, as well as political backwardness needs unwavering support given the potential of undermining the implementation of the plan. Once again, Kamalala, President Zuma, let me praise the National Planning Commission's sterling work under the captaincy of Minister Manuel, as well as your leadership. Such can only motivate us to higher levels of development and progress. It is claimed, rightfully so, that the National Development Plan is a gigantic task, demanding huge resources in all forms, thus giving prophets of doom an excuse to give the usual pessimistic rhetoric. Kamalala, once again, the people of South Africa not only confronted apartheid, but brought it down. What's going to stop us to mobilize the same political will, the same social capital, to ensure successful implementation of such a daunting task? Ndithi ke somlomo mazenethole iyabolelala. Shukran.
I thank the honourable member, and I wish to invite the leader of the opposition, Honourable Mazibuko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable President, honourable members. It is a rare moment when one can see the hand of history. Today's official handover of the revised National Development Plan to the President may indeed be one such moment. The Democratic Alliance welcomes this plan. We believe that the plan's success or failure will depend entirely on whether the President will rise to the challenge of aligning his government policies with the goals and objectives of the NDP. This plan is the product of over 2 years of hard work by members of the National Planning Commission. The DA would like to thank the 26 commissioners who generously volunteered their time, skills, and expertise to craft a vision and a strategic plan for our country. We also thank every South African from every walk of life who took part in the public consultation on the diagnostic report and the draft plan. By expressing their views on how to solve the many challenges facing our country, our citizens ensured that this process was characterized by the magnanimity of the constitution writing process. This national plan, carved out of shared values, can be South Africa's economic constitution. Different political policies enacted by the governing party of the day can now unfold within the context of a master plan. International examples like post-war Germany and modern-day Brazil inspire us today. Consolidated by different governments, the consensual German economic miracle was based on rapid growth, reconstruction, and reconciliation. Today, successive governments in Brazil are using the rewards of growth to roll back poverty and inequality through the Bolsa Familia social welfare program. Both of these shining successes hinge upon a shared national plan. In our post-apartheid context, the establishment of the National Planning Commission was therefore a welcome admission by this government that we must do more to develop a plan to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality of opportunity in South Africa. This mandate was crisply articulated in the second paragraph of the Green Paper on the NPC, which stated, and I quote, "The lack of a coherent long-term plan has weakened our ability to provide clear and consistent policies." The final product is the realistic assessment of our country's position. The DA agrees that our high levels of unemployment, coupled with the poor quality of education for poor South Africans, are the country's two most pressing challenges. They are, in fact, strongly correlated. We also agree with the NDP's push for diversity and reconciliation. The plans and goals, if enacted through precise policy mandates, could overturn apartheid's legacy of asset stripping at a scale and a pace we have not yet witnessed. The NDP, like the DA, for instance, promotes a smart role for the state in attracting foreign direct investment. This role prioritizes economic growth and job creation and does not try to manipulate opportunity outcomes. This springs from a profound belief in the ability of people, helped but not dictated to by the state, to create a strong society. The NDP also acknowledges that the unemployment crisis affects South Africa's youth most of all. 2/3 of all unemployed people are now below the age of 35. This amounts to around 3.2 million young people. The NDP forecasts that if a young person fails to get a job by the age of 24, she is likely almost never to gain full-time formal employment. This ticking time bomb poses the greatest risk to the social stability and prosperity of our country. The much less spoken of opportunity cost of unused talent is also immeasurable. But, Mr. Speaker, the DA is concerned at the document's ill-defined concept of the so-called developmental state. We believe this is more of a nod to ANC ideology rather than inspired by evidence-based policymaking. We're also concerned that schools, rather than head teachers and teachers, will be held accountable for standards. Again, this appears to be a fudge to keep the lid on COSATU's dissent and hypocrisy. The plan's inherent contradictions with the new growth path are also a matter of concern. Yet over and above these and other concerns that we have, the DA understands the value and the virtue of consensus building in developing this plan. The question that remains is, what next? The Constitution ascribes the responsibility for the implementation of this plan with the President and his government. While distinct policies will be pursued by successive governing parties, this plan will provide a blueprint for all political parties to measure the successes and the failures of their policies by. Simply put, it is now up to the Honourable President to align his policies with the NDP. This is the hard part. It requires much more than the NDP simply being accepted as a planning framework by the government. Each annual budget must have precise targets and timeframes that correspond to this plan. Mr. Speaker, today the DA seeks the assurance of the Honourable President that the government's performance in implementing this plan will be monitored and evaluated regularly by the Presidency. The DA in Parliament will also hold every government department to account for its adherence to the plan. This is where I fear tensions could be inflamed. The DA is not convinced that the governing party subscribes to this plan with its hearts and its minds. Most alarming is the fact that the NDP did not feature in a single significant policy motion at the recent ANC policy conference. This resistance to the road less travelled is the reason that the DA was concerned when the draft document was released last year that factions within the ANC might attempt to block its implementation. For this plan to succeed, the President must show the fearless leadership that his government has lacked up till now. Our economic constitution will stand or fall on the Honourable President's leadership. The Honourable President will have the unflinching support of the DA if he moves immediately to land this plan in government. Tomorrow, the hard work must begin. We do not have a single day to waste. I thank you.
Mission would indeed mark the beginning of a new era in South Africa. But the unsettling question that refuses to go away is, will it be implemented? There are many important messages that are included in this plan. The most significant is the one that relates to the need for urgent and thoroughgoing institutional reform. The fact that more than half of the plan is dedicated to the type of institutional reform that is urgently needed is significant. I cannot fail to recall that in November last year, the Honourable Minister handed the original plan to all of us, to the country. And I was there at the presidential guest house when this happened. We were then informed that the minister and the commission would have to go and consult some more on this issue, so as to refine it. And I got the impression, perhaps wrongly, that government would, accepting this plan, would champion its marketing, etc. So when I looked to the policy conference of the African National Congress, calm down. When I looked to the policy conference of the African National, why are you afraid to listen? I thought that don't silence the voices you don't agree with. Listen first. So I thought that I would hear this plan tabled before the main player on the political stage of our nation. I thought we would hear quite a bit about it. I'm sad to say that I didn't hear one word of it. Instead, I heard
order.
Instead, I heard about the second transition. I don't know what that means, but I heard about that. Elsewhere, I've heard of other documents as well. So the question I ask myself is, the government is devoting significant amounts of the nation's resources to develop this plan, but nobody seems to own it. Nobody seems to be working to ensure that this plan is accepted and then implemented. Similarly, early this week, the Honourable Deputy President graduated about 600 young people. Very commendable. And these young people, as it was announced, are now going to go into government. They are going to lead in the implementation of transformation and change for our society going forward. I asked myself, have they passed examinations on the National Development Plan? What did they pass? I want to know, what did they pass? Because the Minister of Arts and Culture said that, no, they are now going to implement the National Democratic Revolution. I want to know, what did they pass? Did they pass this plan, which we so urgently need implemented? What did they pass? What have they been prepared to go and do? That's the question. And that's why I go back to the question. This is a good plan, but will it be implemented? Will it be implemented? By whom? You see, this is what happens. This is what happens. I want to implement it, but you are the main player. The ruling party is the main player on the platform of our nation. Now you are adopting all kinds of other programs except this one. So I want to know who's going to implement. Who's going to implement? It's a serious matter. The serious question is not all this long, beautiful speeches, flowery English language. It's the hard fact to do, to implement. I'd like to congratulate the minister and congratulate the commission. Fantastic work done here. The weakness is in the institutions. The weakness is in the lack of leadership. To do. That's why when we send money to Limpopo, budget, we pass it here. But the children have no school books today. Because there's nobody to take the books to the children. Let me tell you something interesting. In this country, there's plenty capability to implement things. And if you stop for a moment, think about it. In this country, there are thousands of taverns. Every one of them, every week, is supplied with the necessary alcohol, beers, and all of that. They never run out of stock. But when it comes to delivering books to school children, once a year, no capability. It's not because the country does not have capability. Deliver books to the children of our country once a year. Nothing. Whereas there's plenty capability in the country to deliver beer every week, make sure that every tavern is not running short of it.
Honourable Member,
the situation is not
improving. I regret to announce that your time has expired.
Thank you, sir. I've made the point. I thank you.
I wish to thank the Honourable Member. It's now my pleasure to invite the Honourable M.G. Buthelezi to the podium.
Honourable Speaker, Your Excellency our President, and Excellency our Deputy President, Deputy Chair of National Council of Provinces, the special guest of our Speaker, Sir John Beko, the Speaker of the United Kingdom, honourable members and honourable South Africans. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I commend the outstanding work of the National Planning Commission in preparing this National Development Plan. As a wish list of government, it is admirable, and the IFE supports its implementation. We recognize this enormity of the task given to the Commission to define a plan and a policy framework for the whole of our country, for all government departments, for the next 18 years. In an effort to support this task, the IFE submitted more than 20,000 words of advice to the Commission on the National Development Plan. We may be called opposition parties in this House, which we are, but we believe in singing from the same hymn sheet for the benefit of South Africa, particularly on matters of life and death. Surely our country's economic policy is such a matter, fellow South Africans. That's why I would like to congratulate the Minister of Planning and the Commission I wish to register the IFE's concern for the implementation of this very commendable plan and explain in a way why Mr. Likota speaks as he does. I was in cabinet with Mr. Likota when President Thabo Mbeki announced the policy of GEAR, which was an acronym for growth, employment, and redistribution. I remember describing it in this parliament on this podium as a Damascene experience on the part of the ruling party, which has long been committed to socialism. But immediately, the tripartite partners of the ANC, COSATU, and the South African Communist Party rejected GEAR. We saw them on television jumping up and down saying, we do not want GEAR, we do not want GEAR. Asifuni GEAR. So GEAR gave way to ASGISA, the Accelerated and Shared Growth Initiative, but COSATU then developed its own economic policy, as did the ANC Youth League. So that soon we had a Tower of Babel situation on a matter of critical importance. A bill which was supposed to address the rigidity of our labor laws was abandoned because of the ruling party's fear of the rolling mass action of COSATU. Our country's economic policy remains therefore unclear. The policy of nationalization of our mines, for instance, has been endorsed by the ANC Youth League, COSATU, and parts of the ANC. But His Excellency President Zuma has declared that nationalization is not government policy. Then I ask the question, why then does the ANC give it space for debate? They're after all the ruling party. And it really boggles my mind that the ANC still debates socialist policies which destroyed Russia and all the Eastern Bloc countries and also Eastern Germany. And just now, this country has bailed out Cuba with more than R1 billion. Even Mr. Nelson Mandela, who believed in nationalization, up until 1994, abandoned the idea and embraced the free enterprise system. The mere statement that there is space for debating nationalization is damaging to any prospects of foreign investment in our country, especially if it's repeated by the head of state. And I hope that nationalization will not be debated in Mangaunga. I hope that we've gathered here today to say ta-ta to nationalization. Therefore, while we now have a national development plan, the IFE questions whether competing ideologies might not still influence policy and arrest the implementation of the best laid plan, which reminds me, Your Excellency the President, of my poem by Burns, The Best Laid Scheme of Mice and Men of Genga Clay. And we have a clear reason for concern. When the ANC met in June this year for its policy conference, and two far-reaching decisions on the way forward for the party, our president made no mention of the National Development Plan. It is as though the program of the ruling party will not be confined or even aligned to the program of government. Perhaps the most pivotal question, Mr. Speaker, is where does the National Democratic Revolution fit into the National Development Plan? Clearly, this is not something the ruling party is going to abandon, regardless of how it might clash with the good intentions and commendable policy ideals contained in this plan. The National Development Plan seeks to stir a sense of ownership within our society so that every citizen might feel part of creating the more prosperous, more peaceful, more united South Africa that we all desire. The IFE's concern is that a ruling party which still sees itself as a national liberation movement responsible for implementing a national democratic revolution will inevitably believe it is uniquely entitled, therefore, to rule without opposition, which is antithetic to democracy. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in the ANC. I worked in the SITAM until 1979. We believe in socialism. At one time, I went to Tanzania to see President Nyerere because we regarded him as the guru of Ujamaa, African socialism. Even at that time, he gave me a copy of his book, 10 Years After Arusha, in which he had second thoughts. And when he visited this country on a state visit, he visited me in the offices of the Minister of Home Affairs. And he told me a story which is a lesson for us. He said, in 1980, when Mr. Mugabe became the Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, he said to him, in relation to the vis-a-vis the economy of Zimbabwe, he said, you've inherited a jewel. Don't do what I did. Don't destroy it.
Honorable member,
Now, the IFE
your
supports
speaking
the
time has expired.
The NFA supports the National Development Plan, and we commend the Commission on a job well done.
Honorable McClure.
Chairperson of the NCOP, the President today has received the official handover of what I believe is an excellent macroeconomic framework. It has potential to achieve the National Planning Commission's 2030 vision of 6% unemployment. Mr. President, we support all efforts made by you thus far, and we would appreciate the efforts and inputs of all stakeholders, in particular the respective commissioners. Through this National Development Plan, Mr. President, our hopes is in you to make this plan a reality. Why is our hopes in the President today? Because we, as opposition parties and the country, is concerned about the funding of the National Development Plan. We are concerned, Mr. President, of its implementation. We are concerned about the delivery and whether sufficient skills are being cultivated to build the infrastructure necessary to achieve strong growth in our economy. Moreover, we need sufficient professionals with intense knowledge and skills in service delivery. Mr. President, we also need to end the confusing policy signals being sent out by this government. South Africans need the certainty of policy direction, and the plan has the potential to give it to them. Mr. President, now the policy debates that are going on in the ANC are in total contrast in the ideas and to the ideas that are presented in this plan. So, which plan will the nations then be asked to buy in? The country needs direction, and we need the President to come out in full support of this plan. We need the President to tell us how the many contradictions in the different government and ANC plans and policies will finally be resolved. One such contradiction is that this plan is, however, now come out even stronger against the government's proposed nuclear build program, as they maintain that it does not make financial sense for this country. We therefore urgently need to revise our 20-year energy plan and assess whether the changing global and regional dynamics around the energy sector require a different plan for this country. We need to move, Mr. President, given the current energy crisis that we find ourselves. Mr. President, it is the government's responsibility to ensure that the stakeholders rise to the challenges of achieving the 2030 vision. We need people who are responsible. We need people who are accountable. And we need people who have an oversight measures that ensure financial prudence. We need members of parliament, specifically those in the opposition benches, to make sure, Mr. President, that no one will use your announcement for personal or financial gain or as a platform to loot state funds from the poor. I thank you.
Honorable Ntapane.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, at least I'm given 3 minutes in this instance, and that allows me now to acknowledge your presence in this House, Deputy President and Honorable members. The Planning Commission's National Development Plan has received support from all South Africans since it was first released for public comment later last year. This plan does indeed provide a compelling vision for South Africa up to the year 2030. It is an excellent piece of work that frankly assesses both our successes and failures as a nation, and also provides comprehensive and programmatic proposals on how to overcome the challenges. Honorable Minister, we were delighted as UDM to have been afforded an opportunity to comment on this draft on the 10th of April this year. We felt that really our being called by you was not merely a question of calling us. We really felt that really your call was really genuine, and we really feel that our input were really appreciated. For that, Honorable Minister, and the Commission as a whole, we really thank you for the sterling job and the patriotism you have shown. This plan comes at a time when the nation is wallowing in despair due to high levels of unemployment, growing levels of inequality and poverty. Many people have lost hope about the possibility of finding a job so they could be able to maintain their families and their loved ones. The different economic policies the country has pursued since 1994 have failed to address these challenges. In fact, in some areas, such as inequality, the situation has turned to become very worse. South Africa is one of the highest levels of inequality in the whole world. The constant change of economic policies over the years has contributed immensely to the situation we find ourselves in. Economic policies in South Africa keep changing at the whim of whichever minister is in charge of the finance and economic development portfolios. We therefore, Honorable President, hope that this plan will now give us a semblance of stability in this regard. We also hope it will give government a core perspective on a possible set of policies its departments could pursue. However, in the past, as Honorable Leader of the IFP has enunciated here before me, South Africa has developed many impressive plans and policies which were never implemented. We therefore hope that, Honorable President, that government will soon make public how it intends to cascade the National Development Plan and its proposals to the different spheres of government, because it only by implementing it that we will be able to realize our true potential as a nation. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Mulder, Deputy Minister, Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, what do the people of South Africa need at present? They need hope for the future. Simple as that. On my desk, I have the slogan, the poorest of all persons is not the person without a cent, but the person without a dream. Interesting enough, I started my speech during the State of the Nation debate with this exact paragraph and the same slogan. From then until now, 8 months later, a lot has happened, which rendered South Africans despondent with regards to the future of this country. The proposed way forward by the National Planning Commission consists of many dreams and definite suggestions which really give hope. The Freedom Front Plus gladly support this positive directive. However, I want to seriously warn in terms of 3 red lights, 3 challenges which could bring about the plan to fail in totality. Firstly, we need an able and dedicated civil service to implement it. There are many competent government officials. I work with some of them daily. But, sir, there are just as many incompetent officials who have been appointed by means of affirmative action to positions that they are not suited to and qualified for. I say we will need at least 5 to 10 years to transform the public service to competency before these plans can be implemented successfully by them. Second warning light. Die klem by die ANC se Julie beleidskonferensie het op alles behalwe op hierdie verslag geval. Ons het gehoor van die nasionale demokratiese revolusie, ons het gehoor van die tweede fase van die oorgang, maar ons niks oor hierdie verslag, hoe hy verder hanteer gaan word, gehoor nie. As die ANC hierdie verslag in Desember in Mangaung weer gaan ignoreer, sê ek vir u, gaan dit 'n ernstige fout wees tot nadeel van almal in Suid-Afrika. Onthou, 'n regerende party kry net een kans soos hierdie. As jy hom mis, kan jy die fout nie regstel nie. Thirdly, without the enthusiasm and the commitment of all South Africans, this plan will surely fail. Chapter 15 of the plan attempts to address social cohesion. This is, however, a disappointing section as far as I'm concerned of the report. This chapter is written from the perspective of the majority and is not representative of other views. It is filled with vague terminology and cliches. It does not propose any workable solutions. Whoever wrote this has no grasp of the frustrations and the alienation experienced by most of the different minority groupings in South Africa. We can learn a lot from other countries which have similar diverse populations and implemented successful policies to accommodate everyone. Sir, in 5 years' time, I promise I'll come back and I'll again deliver the same speech. And if I'm wrong, I'll acknowledge my mistake. Let's hope that is not necessary. Bob Kennedy said, some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, in South Africa, why not? Mag hierdie plan uitgevoer word, dan bereik ons dit. Ek dank u.
Honorable K.R. Mishwe.
Thank you, Chairperson, Mr. President, Mr. Deputy President. The ACDP welcomes an excellent work that has been done by the National Planning Commission that has now produced the National Development Plan 2030. While the ACDP supports the National Development Plan that has set jobs, education, and a capable and developmental state as the highest priorities, we nevertheless would have loved to see social cohesion and nation building being given the highest priority also that they deserve. To achieve the objectives of the plan, which is the elimination of poverty and the reduction of inequality, the document refers to, and I quote, uniting South Africans of all races and classes around a common program to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality, close quote. Because of apartheid laws that divided the nation, mainly on racial grounds, it is important that we do not just gloss over our racial past, but that we have to do more and put more emphasis on building unity between different race groups. Speaker, if our nation can succeed in uniting South Africans of all races and classes, then nothing we plan to do will be impossible for us as a nation, particularly if we choose to include God in all our endeavors. The plan should have boldly addressed the fears and uncertainties that still exist in some communities so that all cultural, religious, and racial communities could, without any hesitation, accept and embrace the plan as their own. It is our hope and wish that this plan, which we believe is excellent, be implemented, because only successful implementation of this excellent plan will our people have access to clean running water in their homes, will our people live safely with an independent and fair criminal justice system, and will all our children be able to read and write from grade 3, and inequality will be successfully addressed and poverty alleviated only if this is implemented. And one more time, even as it has been stated in the document, and I quote, that if South Africans are united as this plan is envisioning, then we can say, and I quote, I cannot be without you. Without you, this South African community is an incomplete community. Without one single person, without one single group, without the region or the continent, we are not the best that we can. This is an excellent plan that the ACDP welcomes, and we trust that implementation will not be a problem. Mr. and Honorable Trevor Manuel, thank you with your commissioners for the job well done. Thank you.
Honorable Mfundisi.
Chairperson, the President, Honorable Deputy President, and honorable members, the UCDP applauds the presentation of this proudly South African document. The exercise talks clearly to what Judge Rex van Schalkwyk raised in his book, One Miracle is Not Enough. That South Africa raised herself from the ashes of apartheid, the time has come that she has to rise above poverty and all its concomitant problems. Ideally, we all want the same good things in life. We all want poverty eliminated and inequality reduced as we take contributions here and elsewhere. Such contributions are based on a presumption that we all seek a better South Africa. I believe that is the reason the national plan is believed to have been well received by the various sectors in our society. We all want a better future. Some of us are not entirely convinced that this plan will deliver us all from poverty. The policy suggestions cannot lead to a future of no poverty, significant reductions in inequality, or a society that has a 94% employment rate. The reason for this argument is that the NPC has not managed to blaze a trail for the future. Instead, the NDP argues that the current path in South Africa, moderately tweaked, can actually deliver over the next 2 decades an ambitious development goals of near zero unemployment, zero poverty, and a more equal society. The national plan reads like a high-level summary of all that currently exists in government. There is a significant work that has gone into these policy developments and implementation processes, which in fact represent substantive improvements. However, the task of the NPC was to do more than merely improve on what already exists. It was to chart a new path over the next 2 decades. Its role was never to endorse, disagree with a tweak or existing policy, but rather to blaze a new trail. To this extent, it has not been very successful in that. Economic infrastructure is the best example to illustrate this. The NPC recommends several infrastructure projects, including extracting coal and continuing the line transporting iron ore to Saldanha. The NPC takes a welcome stance in indicating that private companies would need to pay at least part of the cost for these developments. It has been shown that links between mining companies and the state-sponsored infrastructure created under apartheid have been sustained, and the NPC sees this continuing until 2030. To its credit, however, the NPC has, been broad in consulting the public.
Your speaking time has expired, Honorable Member.
Right, the UCDP supports the acceptance of the report.
Honorable Bula.
Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, the Honorable President, the National Development Plan is the most rational and sensible progression. The MF would like to congratulate the Honorable President for his initiative and note with great admiration the extensive work of Minister Trevor Manuel, the various commissioners, and all South Africans. And we are grateful that you have taken the MF's input into consideration. In order to achieve a progressive and developmental state, skills and expertise undoubtedly from all sectors of society must be brought on board. I am reminded by Professor Monteek Aliawala, an economic genius that turned India's economy around because emphasis were placed on skills and development. Madiba once said, education is the key to success. Undoubtedly, we must zoom into education with commitment and dedication. The MF indeed cherished the hope that in spite of challenges, the positive intention of the plan will ensure social development and economic opportunities for all. Targets can only be achieved if we take a bold and decisive step marching forward all the way, irrespective of political affiliation. What is important is a collective commitment to create more jobs so that we could boost our economy. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, a country who does not invest in its youth is a country who does not invest in its future. Remember, when the bomb fell on Hiroshima, Japan directed most of its budget towards education, and today they are the leaders in the economically industries. We must ensure that stringent measures are put in place for a successful rollout of the plan. Baba Mongameli, abantu bayahlupheka baba. Badinga isizo, badinga umanzi, badinga ugesi, badinga izindlo, badinga ukudla. Bayahlupheka emaphandleni. Ngifisela uthi le uhlelo uzobalekelela. In Indian language, what we want is roti, kapra, makan, pani, or bijli. There must be equality for all. Mr. President, the National Development Plan undoubtedly is a strong vehicle to deliver all our people from the shackles of poverty into the light of democracy and development. Let's ensure all the bolts of this vehicle are tightened so that we could ultimately reach out to all our people to cover the distance of success.
Honourable Member, your speaking time is
The MF will support the plan.
Honourable N.T. Koti.
Chairperson, ke leboga. Comrade President of the Republic, comrades and honourable members. On behalf of the APC, I wish to express our endorsement of the National Development Plan, to applaud the commissioners and all involved in producing a plan that seeks to create a unified national focus and goal. There can be no goal more central to our national objectives than the elimination of poverty and the reduction of inequality. These twin challenges form the material basis of our struggle for freedom. If these are not tackled head-on through united national effort and single-mindedness, not only will this render meaningless the supreme sacrifices of many for freedom, but social explosion will be the inevitable consequence. As the APC, we appreciate that the document gives us all a minimum program, a basis around which all right-thinking and patriotic citizens can unite and focus. The plan gives us the possibility to, for once, collectively focus on a common national challenge. We will, of course, differ on how this needs to be achieved, but we will at least be mobilizing, discussing, and focusing on the central issues of our nation: poverty and inequality. Freedom must have material meaning for the majority of our people, especially those that form the fulcrum of our struggle for freedom. Chairperson, the plan challenges us as a nation in that it means that if it is to be a living, realizable plan, it cannot be business as usual. It means that the way we organize ourselves, run our affairs, manage and utilize our resources have to change for the better. Any corruption, maladministration, inefficiency, or incompetency at all levels will need to be eradicated. Thank you.
Honourable Lees.
Mr. Chairman, Honourable President, Honourable Members, and honoured guests in the gallery. It is with some trepidation that I am to speak to you today about the National Development Plan, especially as I today make my maiden speech in this chamber and to a joint sitting. I'm particularly honoured to be speaking in the same debate as the DA leader, the Honourable Lindiwe Maziboko. Mr. Chairman, the Honourable Njikelana seems to have somewhat of a short memory. He says that the ANC is capable to implement this plan through cadre development. Has he forgotten about the arms deal? Has he forgotten about Limpopo school books? Has he forgotten about Shabir Sheikh, Jackie Celebre, and others? Honourable Chair, Mr. Chairman,
Order, honourable members.
Not long ago, I visited Mrs. Gokila Mchali in her home outside Utrecht in KwaZulu-Natal. Mrs. Mchali was, according to her ID book, 116 years old. She was frail, but of very sound mind. I spent time speaking to her about her memories and her long life. A wonderful lady who could neither write nor read. Ngiyanchazela indaba yogogo Mchali ngoba uhlele yedwa nontwana wongane yakhe. Uhlele erondolo eyakwe nodaka. Ifenishe bingekho kuleyo rondolo. Kwakhona umbhede omdala lo wakwensimbi.
Order, honorable members.
Ngasondeza khona behleli phansi enhlabeni. Ngaphambi komlilo owakhiwe ngaphakathi wendlu. Nami ngasondeza kuye ngahlala phansi. Sakhuluma.
Order.
Kodwa bengakhali lo gogo. Bengakhali kampela. Iyazi inhliziyo yami bebhlungu kanjani kumbona kanjena. Her entire long life, service delivery passed her by.
Honourable Chairperson.
Order, honourable
Chairperson, I rise on a point of order. I understand that the honourable member is quite excited and he gets a nice reaction as well. But technically there's a tradition in Parliament that says a maiden speech should be non-controversial. And if it's...
Order, honourable members. Order. Let's listen. Order.
And if it's non-controversial, then there should also be no reaction in a negative way. So I can understand that the colleagues from the DA is quite excited about the content. But I think it's more important that we keep that tradition in Parliament. There will be another opportunity for a member to make speeches like this and for others to react. We should keep the tradition.
Thank you.
Tradition.
Thank you. Order. Honourable Liz, could you go back to the report, please? Continue with your debate.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Akayitholanga indlu. Akayitholanga noma amanzi. Akayitholanga noma ugesi. I'm glad the honourable member is now using some headphones. Perhaps he can understand what I'm saying. Akatholanga noma toilet. Samsiza kancane nokudla nengumbu zokulala. Kodwa mhlambe inyanga ezimbili edlulile washona ugogo. The NDP, Mr. Chairman, is a progressive plan that could be the basis for an economic development that will make it possible to provide the services to the many Gogo Mchalis who live daily lives of hardship in our country. However, the plan will have no impact if it remains a grand plan restricted to the national sphere, and many speakers have alluded to this. For the Gogos like Gogo Mchali to access what is due to them, all spheres of government must adopt the plan. This is a big task and will require strong leadership. The response of government in the national sphere has been, at best, lukewarm. All municipalities, provinces need to buy into and implement this plan. Whilst there's a lot of commonality between provinces and between municipalities, there are also differences. These will require that municipal and provincial spheres tailor individual strategies for the implementation of this plan. Politicians will need to put aside internal party political struggles, personal agendas, and be united in purpose and in action. For 7 years, has cost 400 million rand, is far from complete, and now faces possible demolition as a result of poor workmanship. The NDP will never fly, and the Gogos will continue to live in misery unless people who are competent, honest, and without political agendas are found, developed, and play the vital implementation role in all provinces and municipalities. all the wonderful words of fighting corruption, placing skilled people in the correct positions, will achieve nothing if political leaders do not act decisively and swiftly when wrongdoing and incompetence is exposed. In the Western Cape Provincial Government, we have already seen how bright the future could look if the proposals of the NDP were to be implemented. From the Work and Skills Programme to the nation's first youth
Honourable
wage
members,
subsidy
order,
scheme,
please. Can you
the
listen to
lives
the
of
member?
hundreds of people. Sorry, Mr.
No, continuously.
The lives of hundreds of people, particularly young people, have been transformed. The Premier of my province, KwaZulu-Natal, has publicly come out in support of the youth wage subsidy proposed and budgeted for by National Treasury. No more waiting for COSATU, Mr. Chairman. No tampering with the project. Time is slipping away, and thousands of young people are being denied the opportunity of employment and making a contribution to the NDP. Mr. Chairman, our beautiful Constitution calls and enables us to use our gifts and our positions to build a prosperous nation. I believe that most, if not all of us in this place today, share a common dream of prosperity for all South Africans. The wise implementation of the NDP, particularly in local and provincial spheres, will undoubtedly open opportunities for all.
Honourable Blackie.
Thank you, Chairperson. The National Development Plan provides a future vision for South Africa's development agenda and intends to guide economic growth and the use of country's resources optimally to address the needs of the people. A very well-structured public consultation process followed. Evidence research-based, generated via the diagnostic plan, which provided useful insight into current state of South Africa. As echoed by President, this is not a plan for government, but for the people. Herein lies the precise challenge. Unless we are pragmatic in rectifying the fault line across society and deal with challenges of corruption, poor service delivery, ineffective policy implementation, this plan, though well-intended and research, will fail. Or unless there is political will by government to balance economic growth and social development. By the way, the South African Development Plan's vision for 2030 sees the road to transforming society and changing relations, building a society compact based on a sense of belonging, responsibility, accountability, mutual respect, and trust. The plan aims to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality by 2030. The Commission Vision 2030 statement seeks to help the country reduce its high unemployment rate to 14% in 2030 by growing economy by around 5% annually. However, for the state to fulfill these functions, it needs strategic, organizational, and technical capacity to play its developmental role. The major challenge in South Africa is that majority of people generally live in shacks, have no proper access to water, sanitation, electricity, proper schools, and healthcare facility. On the other hand, Chairperson, the community do not have access to government services and have little chance to live themselves out of abject poverty. Many schools in township and rural areas still lack basic facilities like electricity, running water, library, laboratories, and books. Chairperson, we need to address the current impediments in government, in policies and socialization, if we are to achieve some of the intended outcomes of the NDP. As the central document which guides government into future, there are some contradictions between NDP and the new growth path relating to the envisaged role of the state into economy. What stands out are different ideological and worldview on what type of growth path is suitable for South Africa. Chairperson, the NDP addresses all the right issues, has the correct problem statement for various sectors, supported by good research. But in practice, how do we, for instance, address improving state capacity to deliver? Is the single public service the answer? How large can the public service salary bill get as percentage of GDP before we start experiencing similar problems like the European states? Are taxpayers generally getting value for money when millions get looted through systemic corruption in supply chain management processes? Chairperson, the NDP has provoked a great deal of discussion about the value of long-term planning. As the old saying goes, if we fail to play, then we plan to fail. Various studies have shown that successful plans provide a constant. If we fail to play, then we play. It's a good plan and is sufficiently robust to provide long-term direction, notwithstanding short-term pressures, conflict and political exigencies.
Honourable Member, your speaking time has expired. Honourable Sidibia.
Honourable Chairperson, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma and Deputy President Moshlanti, Honourable Ministers, members, and our distinguished guests in the gallery. Honourable Minister Manuel, congratulations from the side of the African National Congress. A perception is created that there's a distance, a space between the National Development Plan and the ANC. Now, South Africa must listen. The establishment of the National Development Plan and Commission is from a resolution taken at the 52nd National Conference of the ANC. Honourable Lakota, I hope you listened. On the 6th of February 2012 and on the 30th of July 2012, the ANC NEC released a press statement. I'm going to read the last statement. The NEC agreed that the National Development Plan thus far is on the right track towards taking the country forward. The ANC pledges its support for this noble effort. Honourable Lakota. The African National Conference had several elective conferences and policy conferences. Why is COPE battling to have an elective conference and run to a court? The Democratic Alliance, will the President lead? The ANC will lead and take South Africa with it. Honourable Chairperson, in the State of the Nation address, 2012, the Honourable President gave us a clear challenge to write a new story about South Africa, to work together, to drive back unemployment and reduce inequality and poverty, shaping the future. All of us, not only the President, all of us, the rest of South Africa. The first national plan was released on the 11th of November 2011. A few days after the MTBBS statement was tabled in this House by the Minister of Finance. The national budget was tabled in February 2012. Just go a bit back. And it is part of the program to allocate money to the priorities listed in the National Development Plan. Go and read the budget review. You'll find it there. We must look at this holistically and address the challenges. That a towering leader of our movement, the Honourable Comrade Walter Sisulu, wrote, and listen, the story of our struggle is a story of problems arising and problems being overcome. Nee, wat, luister maar net. The solutions we adopt are the solutions we ourselves have to implement. We ourselves have to implement. The ANC is serious in giving leadership to this beautiful country, South Africa. The National Planning Commission gave effect to the wisdom of Comrade Walter Sisulu. The country now has a long-term vision. But, honourable members, honourable chairperson, that we live in a real world. The tabling of the revised national plan takes place, listen, in a global economic and financial environment that remains highly uncertain
Honourable
and have
members,
risks
please give a
also
member
for
time
South
to
Africa.
behave.
With much of Europe in a recession, significant financial risk is clouding the global economic outlook. In spite of this, South Africa's finances are in a good health, thanks to the ANC. The sustainable fiscal framework, based on the principles of counter-cyclicality and debt sustainability, underpins our growth strategy, discussed at the ANC policy conference. The revised plan sets jobs, education, and the capable and developmental state as the highest priorities. It means our developmental strategy requires a capable state and active citizens. It includes us. We need a buy-in on this plan from every South African, a South Africa that belongs to all who live in it, black and white. We need parents to work with the state to deliver quality education. Het my kind sy huiswerk gedoen voor hy môre skool toe gaan? Het hy geleer vir die eksamen wat hy moet gaan skryf? Dis die ouers se plig om dit te doen. Dis nie net die onderwysers se nie. Dis ons almal se plig. Andersins sê hy nee, hy wil dit nie doen nie.
Order.
Community leaders that will protect neighborhoods, business and trade unions to grow the economy, investors to create jobs. Honourable Chairperson, this national plan will succeed if we have good governance and sound financial management and value for money. The process of allocating funds to the priorities have already started with the MTBBS in October 2011. It went into the national budget of 2012. It will continue in October 2012 with a new MPBBS. Go and read the budget review. Go and read it. The national budget sets expenditure to 1.068 trillion rand in the current financial year and going up to 1.239 trillion rand in the outer years 2014-15. There's allocations for education, EPWP, municipal infrastructure, etc. Honourable Chairperson, to achieve the targets set in the revised National Development Plan, putting our economy on a more rapid and inclusive growth path to 2013, we need to effectively direct and manage the levers of change.
Chairperson, sal die achtbare voormalige nasionale party lid 'n vraag antwoord?
Nee.
He will not take a question. Order. Order, honourable members, order. Order.
Honourable.
Continue, Mr. De Beer.
Honourable Chairperson, the NCOP will enhance its role in oversight over national, provincial departments and municipalities at local sphere of government. Because that's part of the solution to achieve the targets that were set. Yesterday, on the 14th of August, the Select Committee for Finance met with 4 provincial treasuries, KZN, Free State, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, to monitor the spending in these provinces. We can report today to this House that they take their instructions serious, referring to good governance and sound management. Implemented specific measures to address it. The other provinces also. On the 29th, we will take this exercise further with the rest of the provinces in South Africa. The underspending on conditional grants is impacting negatively on service delivery and must improve. We shall meet these provinces on a quarterly basis to account to the NCOP and to Parliament. Very important, very important is the enforcement of the prescriptions of the PFMA and the MFMA. referring to the role of provincial treasuries, referring to the role of accounting officers, Section 18 and Section 38 of the PFMA. But, Honourable Chairperson, we must ask the question, what now? Yeah, what now? Julle maak 'n geraas, what now? We must point our finger to ourselves. Vat jou vinger en druk hom net in jou bors. Jy sien jy's bang om dit te doen. I am going to make a difference to... Are you going to do that? They're shaking their head. What does it mean to enhance and improve our oversight role in our constituencies? Yes. Where are you in the constituency period and on Mondays? Having information sessions with our communities explaining the National Development Plan. Yes. In the Kamiesberg, we had 15 meetings March, April. Friday morning, we are meeting them again, 9 o'clock, with the farmers. In the afternoon, with the Women's League, and later the youth. Visiting our schools, hospitals, clinics, SAP stations, departments operating in our constituencies. Take the issues we come across immediately up with our MEC and ministers, Honourable Lees. The example you mentioned, did you call the MEC on the cell phone? And report it. It's easy. It's like that. Send the email. Go back to the office, type a letter. Then you were in charge. But now you were not in charge. I'm sorry. And then, honourable members, do follow-up visits and give feedback. Our people needs the feedback. What did you do with the issue? What did you do in terms of the plan to shape the future to give this person a better life? That's the question we must ask. Honourable Chairperson, we must listen, we must think, and we must act. Doing this, we can make a difference to shape our future and enhance the reaching of the set goals in the National Development Plan. Let's do it. Thank you.
Order, honourable members. Can I just make this remark? Heckling is allowed in any parliament, but once it becomes, disturbs the order of the House, it's not allowed. Please, let's allow the House to be, and members to be heard, and let's conclude the debate. Heckling is allowed in any parliament, but once it becomes, disturbs the order of the House, it's not allowed. Please, let's allow the House to be, and members to be heard, and let's conclude the debate very fruitfully. Honourable President will now take the podium. I invite the Honourable President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, Mr. Kgalema Motlanthe, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly and Chairperson of the NCOP, Deputy Speaker and Deputy Chair, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, members of the National Planning Commission, fellow South Africans, we would like to thank the presiding officers for enabling the holding of this joint sitting of Parliament to hand over the National Development Plan of the country. The calling of
a joint sitting by Parliament demonstrates the common purpose of the legislature and the executive to see the development of a prosperous South Africa free of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We would like to thank all political parties for their contributions to the debate on this important achievement for the country. As members would recall, in 2009 we identified two shortcomings in the administration that needed immediate correcting. One was the lack of a performance monitoring mechanisms. To fill the monitoring gap, we established a ministry and department responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation. The second was the need to introduce long-term planning so that we could align our policies with a long-term development plan. The intention was to move away from silos and parochial planning and look at our country as one holistic entity that should develop comprehensively in every corner. We established the Ministry for the National Planning Commission in the presidency to fulfill this task. With the assistance of the South African public who participated in the nomination processes, we appointed experts to work with Minister Manuel as chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the National Planning Commission, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. The areas of expertise include economics, finance, social services, rural development, energy, public policy and governance, infrastructure development, urban and rural planning, education and training, health, agriculture and food security, climate change, local government, and scenario planning. The National Planning Commission has conducted its work guided by the Constitution of the Republic, which is the ultimate national development plan, outlining what type of society we must build. The Constitution incorporates principles from the Freedom Charter, which was produced by scores of South Africans, black and white, who came together and adopted a vision and mission for the country in June 1955. The country's constitution derived from lessons arising from our history of selfless struggle and joins us to heal the divisions of the past and to establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. It says we must lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. It calls upon us to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. More importantly, the Constitution states that we must build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. Like the Freedom Charter, the Constitution emphasizes that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, thereby promoting a common citizenship, a common future, a common destiny for all. Knowledge of a common citizenship, future, and destiny has brought us together today to accept and discuss the National Development Plan. Together, we want to build a future of prosperity with freedom from want, disease, deprivation, illiteracy, landlessness, racism, xenophobia, homophobia, and all social ills and related intolerances. It must be a future where every citizen of our country lives in a community with proper infrastructure, be it a road, school, clinic, recreation facilities, a community hall, electricity, water, sanitation, information and communication technologies, and the ability to develop to their full potential. The National Plan Commission was established to help us to refine that vision and unpack our destination for us and help us achieve that goal of a united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and truly prosperous society. At the inaugural meeting of the Commission, I said, the establishment of the NPC was our promise to the people of South Africa, that we were building a state that would grow the economy, reduce poverty, and improve the quality of life of our citizens. For that reason, the team was asked to produce reports on a range of issues that impact on our local government, such as water, security, climate change, food security, energy security, infrastructure planning, human resource development, defense and security matters, the structure of the economy, spatial planning, demographic trends, and so forth. They have delivered on their mandate in record time. We congratulate the team on this achievement. They have presented to all of us a plan that all South Africans should identify with and embrace, regardless of political differences. We broadly agree on the need to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. We may disagree on methods, but the end result is not difficult to agree on. The national plan describes that final destination that we are all moving towards is the same. Honorable members, it is also impressive that the National Planning Commission has, in its short existence, already contributed significantly to both the public discourse on our future and into policy-making process inside government. We needed to have that sort of debate as a nation. In June 2011, the Commission released a diagnostic document stating that the elimination of poverty and the reduction of inequality were the objectives of a long-term plan. The diagnostic report outlines 9 key challenges that stand in the way of achieving those objectives. They said that these were the following: too few people work, the quality of school education for black people is poor, infrastructure is poorly located, inadequate and under-maintained, spatial divides, hopefully includes development. The economy is unsustainable, resource intense. The public health system cannot meet demand or sustain quality. Public services are uneven and often of poor quality. Corruption levels are high. South Africa remains a divided society. Very few countries are able to take such a strong self-critical view. It demonstrates how mature we are politically and how determined we are about turning the situation around in our country. It demonstrates the determination to work together as all parties to reverse the legacy of the horrible system of governance we emerged from in 1994, which was designed to systematically underdevelop certain areas of our country, and in particular, the black majority. In November last year, the Commission produced a draft National Development Plan for 2030, comprehensive set of policy proposals. The recommendations covered 13 areas, including job creation, education, health, rural development, citizen safety, economic infrastructure, social protection, and South Africa's place in the region and the world. Since November, the Commission has embarked on an extensive public engagement process on the draft plan. They have held hundreds of meetings in the most far-flung areas of the country, engaged with civil society, the labor movement, and several business formations. They have also engaged extensively with Parliament. In addition, they have received over 500 written submissions from members of the public. We therefore congratulate the National Planning Commission on conducting one of the most extensive public consultation processes on public policy since the drafting of our Constitution. They went to all provinces and used all means of communication to reach South Africans. They have underscored our country's democratic foundations. The NPCs submits that our long-term objectives should be the elimination of poverty and the reduction of inequality. There is further consensus that creating jobs and improving the quality of education are our highest priorities. There is also a large degree of consensus on the key elements of the plan and of a social compact that will guide our country over the course of the next 2 decades. As Minister Manuel has outlined, the plan deals with more than just the 5 priorities of government, but many other concerns that we dedicate our efforts to on a daily basis. While the achievement of the objectives of the National Development Plan requires progress on a broad front, 3 priorities stand out. Raising employment through faster economic growth, improving quality of education, skills development and innovation, building the capability of the state to play a developmental transformative role. Given our struggle against unemployment, a scourge that renders many families restless and in distress, we are encouraged by the long-term employment creation proposals, which are in line with our new growth path framework. The plan proposes that we should adopt strategies that bring about faster economic growth, higher investment, and greater labor absorption. It takes a view and it states that we should reduce the unemployment rate. We should reduce the unemployment rate from 24.9% in June 2012 to 14% by 2020 and 10% by 2030, which would require an additional 11 million jobs. This would help us tackle youth and women unemployment. We believe that it is an achievement that we can make, and indeed an achievable goal, if we set our sights to it and transform and de-racialize the economy to enable it to perform in a manner that will enable growth and job creation. We can and should also make our economy receptive to employing young people. Youth unemployment should be of concern to us all across political divides. The challenge cannot be a political football, but should unite us behind finding a solution, as the youth is the future of our country. Honorable members, another key intervention which the plan reflects, which is directly related to job creation, is education. The long-term vision proposed by the National Planning Commission sees South Africa improving its education system and infrastructure. This will require good preschool learning, investments in mathematics and science teaching, promoting learner retention rates, and producing positive outcomes in all our schools. We are encouraged by the prediction that if we get basic education right, we can be able to increase enrollment at universities by at least 70% by 2013. We have reason to be optimistic about the youth given the interest some of them show in serious matters, especially the economy. I received an email from Humphrey Pumelelo Songwane, a grade 12 learner at Siatemba, Balfour in Mpumalanga province, wanting to know how South Africa will benefit from the membership of BRICS and how long it will take before we see results. With young people like Mpumelelo, we can be optimistic that the future will be in good hands, as they are already pondering a brighter and successful future and are keen to engage the highest level of government to understand what we are trying to do. We intend to visit the school to explain BRICS to all the learners, especially grade 11 and 12. Honorable members, the National Development Plan covers many sectors, but also raises great expectations. People will expect from it solutions to many problems they face on a day-to-day basis. These are problems that led to the establishment of the National Planning Commission in the first place. Many of our people spend long hours traveling by taxis and buses to work. There is clearly a mismatch between where people live and where they work. The plan must help us address this anomaly in the long term. In all well-planned societies, the poor live near places of work. In South Africa, it is the opposite. Those with no transport live far away. The national plan must make proposals on how to deal with historical anomalies in housing delivery by 2013. Some people are surprised to be told they earn too much to qualify for a housing subsidy from government, but not enough to qualify for a mortgage bond from a bank. This leaves them without decent shelter. Their children do not qualify for financial assistance from the state in order to study, and yet banks consider them risky borrowers. Another anomaly is how we get households to utilize land to produce food. Even in rural areas where people could have some land for tilling, households rely on supermarkets for all their food requirements. Given the high food prices, this is not the best option. Proposals in the national plan include an activation of rural economies through several measures, including reviewing land tenure and security for the landless rural masses, and supporting subsistence farming to enable people to live from the land. We applaud the projection and proposal that of the 24 million jobs targeted for 2030, 643,000 direct and 326,000 indirect jobs must be created in the agriculture, agro-processing, and related sectors. Indeed, with improved economic activities, both in the urban and rural areas, hunger and poverty will take a back seat. People will enjoy improving nutritious diets, a significant step towards a healthy nation that the plan advocates for 2030. I'm pleased that the Commission agrees with us about the importance of infrastructure for development to change the landscape of our country. Ultimately, we should see every township and village having tired roads, water, sanitation, electricity, proper sewage systems, recreational facilities, and all social amenities that normal residential settlements should have. We are encouraged by proposals to improve health, among others, by reducing maternal, child, and infant mortality, and preventing communicable diseases such as TB and HIV and AIDS, and to improve health infrastructure. Also, of paramount importance is the need to ensure safer communities, which this plan also highlights at length. The ongoing fight against crime and corruption remain pivotal to the achievement of our long-term goals as a country. Honorable members, special guests, the actions we take today can ensure that we have a better tomorrow. It will ensure that children born today will enjoy this full range of benefits by 2013, including good education and employment. The National Development Plan tells us that it is possible to create a future that is many times better than the present. We can do it if we set our sights to it and begin planning in earnest for 2030 instead of looking only at the next financial year or the next 5 years. All sectors to also engage with the plan: the school governing bodies, companies, newsrooms, university councils, religious gatherings, unions, political parties, and many other important gatherings of our people. We encourage schools, especially grades 10, 11, and 12, to study the plan. This will help children in career planning as they will understand the priorities and vision of the country. It is a common road plan for all of us, regardless of political affiliation. We have an exceptional constitution. The national plan gives meaning to that constitution and provides practical long-term proposals to implement the vision outlined in the Constitution. We thank all the commissioners for a job well done. We thank them in particular for the interactive manner in which this important work was done. We will be discussing this document at the Cabinet Lekgotla next month to harmonize it with our existing development plans. The work of the Commission does not stop with the submission of the plan. The terms of reference ask them to do more detailed work in 11 areas, including water security, food security, education, and employment. Furthermore, they are tasked with advising government on the implementation of the plan. They will work closely with the development of the country and, of course, specifically with the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation to turn the plan into targets to be incorporated into future performance and delivery agreements. We trust, too, that political parties, companies, school governing bodies, trade unions, and many sectors will also incorporate many aspects of the plan in their own long-term planning exercises and implementation plans. In that way, we will harmoniously move towards a better future together. We have a common citizenship, common future, and a common destiny. Regardless of who we vote for during each national elections. South Africa is paramount. We should put her first in everything we do before all sectional considerations. In other words, we should appreciate that our job, all of us, is to help South Africa move forward. I think that is very important, and it is encouraging that all parties support this plan, which includes the ANC, which has supported the plan in its policy conference. But I must also be very happy that leaders of the opposition parties really pay attention to ANC policy conference. Thank you very much. And I hope there could be some lessons drawn out of it.
We're watching Mangaung too.
We're very happy also that you are watching Mangaung. Very happy. Compatriots, Shenga is part of democracy. You can't sit back when South Africa is active, because in Mangaung, South Africa will be active. So it must be part of it. Were produced by the University of Pretoria. We congratulate the university on this achievement and encourage all institutions to invest more on sports development. As government, we have also taken a decision to revive and invest more in school sports to begin planning for the future. Honorable members, we congratulate and thank the Commission as well as members of the public who participated in the production of the National Development Plan. We look forward to more hard work from all of us as we put the plan to practice. And I thank you.